Hi, I'm Ella.
Hello, I'm Jo, and we work at Grand Junction. This is chapter 1 of the Our Natural World Local Life series. In this video, we'll be looking at the Grand Union Canal, its history, and the ways it's been used over time.
Our key learning objectives are 1. To use a local landmark as inspiration for creative ideas. 2. To explore a local landmark and its importance. Now let's start with the history of the canal. This is the Grand Union Canal. This is a timeline. If we look at the changes on the canal, we will find clues about how life changed in our local area. Using paper and pens, can you create a timeline that looks like the Grand Union Canal? The Grand Union Canal wiggles from Paddington in London all the way to Birmingham. The Grand Union is made up of other canals. It is 137 miles long, which is the longest combined canal in the UK. From the late 1700s into the 1800s, Britain built more factories and started to use steam power to power machinery. This was called the Industrial Revolution. It meant that there were more jobs and the number of people living in Paddington grew quickly. The barges on the canal were used to bring bricks, wood and coal from Birmingham to Paddington, transporting coal for all of the factories and the materials they needed to build more houses for all of the new families and workers. From the 1870s, families even started to live on the canal in narrowboats. These are small barges, less than 7 foot wide. Around this time, the rose and castle decorations started to appear on more boats. What decorations would you put on your boat? If you travelled along the whole of the Grand Union Canal, you would have to open and close 158 locks. Do you know what a lock is? It's not the type you find on a door, but more about that later. In 1859, St Stephen's Primary School was built. How many years has it been open? In 1915, Edward Wilson Primary School was built. Do you know who Edward Wilson was? What else will you add to your timeline to record your local history? Do you remember how many locks I said that the Grand Union Canal had? Yes, some of you are right, it has 158 locks. A canal lock is the way canals go up and over hills. A boat floats into a lock, the valve is turned so water levels can be raised or lowered, the gate opens and the boat passes through.
Wow, thank you so much, Ella, for explaining that amazing timeline and looking at all the dates and what happened along the canal over the last couple of 100 years. Is totally fascinating. What I'm going to do with you now, guys, is look a little bit at the different sounds that we hear along the canal. Have you ever taken a walk down the canal and heard loads of different noises? Well, I'm going to share a couple with you now. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a windlass. Has anyone heard of that before? So a windlass is a special lever that is used to turn the cogs, which wind the paddle up and down in order to open or close the lock. And it sounds a bit like this. There are many cyclists that use the towpath along the Grand Union Canal. Have you ever cycled your bike down it? But always remember to ring your bell so people that are walking can hear you coming. Ding ding! Most narrowboats are powered by diesel or petrol, a bit like a car really, but some are now electric vehicles. They sound a little bit like this. You can see many ducks, geese and swans on the Grand Union Canal. Have you seen any? There are lots of tunnels along the Grand Union Canal. Have you ever walked underneath one and heard your own echo? Hello, ho, 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 ho. When a boat gets to a lock, the gates have to open and the water rushes out. Hello. Can you create your own soundscape? You can use some of the sounds that I used, or think of some new ones. If you're in a group, try layering your sounds by all doing them at the same time. Try closing your eyes and listening. Extension task. Can you create a canal soundscape from 100 years ago? What sounds would be the same and what sounds would be different? Hello.
There have been so many ways to travel using Grand Union Canal. I'm going to show you how to make some forms of transport using two simple shapes: a long thin rectangle and a shorter wider one. In 1801, the Paddington packet boat started taking people from Paddington to Uxbridge. It was pulled by 4 horses. The boats had smart crews who were known for their blue uniforms with yellow capes and yellow buttons. Water buses became a very popular form of transport as more people started to live near the canal and in cities. Narrowboats were also pulled by horses along the canal before they became steam-powered. Narrowboats were only 7 foot wide so that they could move easily along the canal. In 1886, the largest company of horse-drawn boats introduced steam-powered boats. When driving a steam-powered boat, the drivers would use a rudder to steer and an engine to make the boat move.
Hi again. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit now about sea shanties. Do you know what a sea shanty is? So a sea shanty is a simple song sung by sailors or sea people who were performing physical labour because it kept them in time with each other. Now, sea shanties were mostly inspired by black folk music and traditional working songs. So the one I'm going to do with you today is called Roll the Old Chariots Along. And remember, as they were heaving really heavy boats together, lifting, and their backs were aching, they were hungry, they were tired. So the verses in this song, you're going to make up, and you're going to think about what line could you put in. So I'm going to sing you a couple that I made up, and then I want you to have a think too. So the first one is, oh, a tasty plate of food wouldn't do us any harm. Oh, a tasty plate of food wouldn't do us any harm. Oh, a tasty plate of food wouldn't do us any harm. And they'll all hang on behind. 'Cause we'll roll the old chariots along. We'll roll the old chariots along. We'll roll the old chariots along, and we'll all hang on behind. Oh, a nice hot bath wouldn't do us any harm. Oh, a nice hot bath wouldn't do us any harm. Oh, a nice hot bath wouldn't do us any harm, and we'll all hang on behind. Oh, we'll roll the old chariots along. We'll roll the old chariots along. We'll roll the old chariots along, and we'll all hang on behind. So can you see, you sort of have to really go for it when you sing that song, because you've really got to imagine that you're pulling something really heavy, and there might be 100 other people singing that with you, so it sounds really powerful. So now have a little think. What else do you think you might need at the end of a really long day? Like I said, a nice plate of tasty food wouldn't do us any harm because you'd be really hungry, or a nice hot bath because maybe your back's really aching. Can you think of other things that you can add into those verses? Have a go.
What's going on here then, you slovenly lot? I don't pay to just stand around and do nothing. Get back to work this instant. But before you do, listen close, class, for something factual and funky. Whether you're at the back or sat in the front seat, after this I promise your knowledge won't be rusty. About the longest canal in the country, because of this its first name's grand. It stretches 137 miles across the land, from Paddington to Birmingham. Its second name is Union, because that means togetherness, and it connects the two of them. Now canal, that's a man-made waterway, so boats could transport goods before we caught the train. Now for many boats an engine is the norm today, but back in the day they were pulled by horses' reins, and 4 of them pulled the Paddington packet boat. Without them it wouldn't move, just casually floats. Narrow boats are called that because of their size, up to 70 feet long and 7 feet wide. You'll also find barges or canals that are similar, but their purposes differ, so barges tend to be bigger. They carry goods like bricks, wood and coal, while a narrow boat's more a mobile family home. This wasn't unusual in the 1870s, but before that, please do remember the GU Canal was made as a solution for moving goods during the Industrial Revolution. It's something factual and funky, whether you're at the back or sat in the front seat. After this, I promise your knowledge won't be rusty. About the longest canal in the country, did I mention that it's a combined canal? What's that, you ask? Listen on and find out. It means it's many small canals put together. Because of this, it feels like it could go on forever. Each of these small canals are at different levels, so the invention of locks was essential. A lock's a chamber where water can be raised and lowered, so for boats it's sort of an elevator. With a lever and cogs is how they operate. A windlass turns the spindle if it's the proper shape to slowly open the top of the bottom gates. And once you've got the right level, then you're on your way. If you did the whole canal, you'd see a whopping great figure of 158 along the way. And as you go, see shanties of the song that you sing, such as Roll the Old Chariots Along. Yeah, that was something factual and funky. Whether you're at the back or sat in the front seat. Now we're finished, I'm sure your knowledge isn't rusty. About the longest canal in the country. That's enough. Get back to work right now.